Welcome to Athennian Unlocked September, where we're going to be running through the latest product updates at Athennian. We're going to be diving into Athennian AI as a product, why we've built it, the problems it solves, as well as the latest skill we're launching soon on October 1st, which is Initialize. So really grateful for you to join us today, and we'll be sending all of this out at the end of the demo. Before we get started, you're going to be receiving an email with a link to download the full deck of this webinar and of this update, so keep an eye out for that. The recording will also be available. We post these on YouTube as well, so if ever you wanted to look back at what we have done in the past, you can find them there. Any questions that you might have, please put them in the Q&A box. We'll be answering those as we go, and then we'll send out a survey as well at the end of this to make sure that we're always keeping up to date with feedback and making sure that these are impactful for you and your team. All right, so what we're going to cover today, this is the agenda kind of laid out. It's not going to be the longest demo and webinar. It's going to be short and sweet, but it's going to be very valuable. So we'll start off with a feature spotlight. This is going to be taking a look at Athennian AI in general. It's going to run through the problems Athennian AI as a product solves, as well as where we're headed in terms of vision and what we'd like to look at in the future with our hopes of how this feature is going to build out. We'll also be demoing Initialize, which is a skill that Athennian AI incorporates in its feature. It meets very critical needs when it comes to efficient entity creation, and we're going to look at what that looks like today. Then we'll be ending off with workflow tips and a little booklet as well that is downloadable. We will also send this out via email just as a preface, so keep your eyes out for any email updates from us. You will be able to see all of this in email as a follow-up tomorrow morning, and then anyone that kind of raises their hands for any materials throughout the Q&A in the webinar, we will reach out to you personally as well. All right, let's kick it off with Athennian AI. So, taking a look at Athennian AI as a product, what it solves and why it matters. So we know as an entity management product, we are very aware of the fact that there are some major problems when it comes to manual data management, entry, manipulation, and just the overall kind of day-to-day complexity of entity management with the systems and tools available today. It is manual. It can be a very painful thing to be doing in your day, and it shouldn't be. Entity management should not be difficult. So what we have done with Athennian AI, beginning 2024, we had a vision to kind of look at some of the key problems in the industry that you'll see today. A lot of AI products have been coming up, and we kind of sat back and had a look at what was being built and developed to kind of determine exactly what approach we wanted to take with AI. We wanted to make sure it was valuable and impactful for your team. And we had a little look at the market. So what was very evident to us was that the way other entity management softwares were kind of pushing their AI products forward was with the same concept or build that ChatGPT offers. So that kind of idea of let's query the information we have in the system and get answers quickly. And that's very helpful and that's fine. But what we had noticed was that there were some problems in the industry today that this kind of model could not solve. And those problems actually turned out to be some of the most painful ones when we did our research. So the cost of inefficiency is one of the core problems we noticed. We know that manual data entry is the biggest and most costly problem in entity management today. It is incredibly difficult to get information into your central source of truth at an efficient rate when you have lots of transactions happening, lots of changes in your teams, when you're trying to keep up with your organization's goals and strategies. And just simply doing annual compliance in and of itself. We know that that's a lengthy process, and it is difficult to kind of centralize and place the information in one key kind of spot at a consistent rate to making sure that everything is accurate and up to date. So that inefficiency just in and of itself is incredibly, incredibly costly to an organization. The next thing we touched on with the product that we built is regulatory complexity. So there are things changing all the time. Nothing is constant in entity management. You know that there are always things that pop up that you didn't expect. Laws change, regulations change. Sometimes they become more complex. Sometimes they get done away with. And just managing the scale at which transactions are coming in, as well as managing the variation in regulatory complexity, becomes very difficult when you are a one-man team or a global team with multiple people. It's impossible to manage at all times. Information is coming at you from various sources, and it's difficult to keep up with that kind of demand. And then the final piece that we had noticed with research was data decay. Now, it is evident no matter what tool you use or what team you work with in terms of managing entity data, data decay is inevitable. You cannot avoid it, nothing to do about it. You cannot keep things up to date with the current tools on the market today at the rate at which information is changing in a trustworthy way. And so with the research we had done, we found that it was pretty evident that data decayed between 20 to 30% annually. And that's you doing the best possible job you can. So keeping in mind, this is a team that works. It's a team that's doing well. It's not a team that might be, completely in over their head with struggles. They're actually doing a good job, and their data is still decaying at this rate. And the reason for that is it's difficult to centralize information. So all of that kind of put together brings us to why we built Athennian AI, and why it matters to us that it solves these core problems. So these are the things we were targeting when we built the product. Our first skill, as we had mentioned in a previous webinar, is centralize. It takes documents that usually reference changes or transactions, and it surfaces information on these documents, kind of processing and scanning them and putting the information in key spots as a suggestion for what action you should take. It kind of gives you that overview of what is happening in the document, and then you verify the information and file that document in the minute book. So very simple process. Document comes in, it processes it, it scans it, it can read multiple languages, it can read handwritten documents, and then it takes that information, it surfaces the critical points for you, so saves you a ton of time, and then you validate all of that and file. Now, the second piece that we're touching on with Athennian AI is our latest skill, which is Initialize. And Initialize just kind of builds onto that workflow, which we'll touch in a second. A key thing to mention is that Athennian AI is available for 2024 Essentials, Professional, and Enterprise packages. It is an add-on, so if you are interested in this, please reach out to your CSM or let the team know after this webinar and we can get in touch with you. So jumping into the spotlight, let's dive into Initialize. Now, as a high-level kind of overview, just so that the team and everybody on this call knows, it will be launching on October 1st. So more details are to come with regards to pricing dynamics and all of that, how to set it up, how to use it, trainings, that kind of thing. We will be sending out sheets ahead of time, as we usually do, for you to get an understanding of the product and how it could be incorporated in your workflows. But to give you a broad level of insight into this new feature, it will be solving the next step of the problem after Centralize, which is detecting information on these documents and then creating that information in an entity. So taking, for example, an incorporation document, maybe you're looking at a form from the government when you are forming companies, or maybe you're doing an initial return for Ontario, something like that. It will take that document, it will read and process the information on that document, surface the critical points, and then it will tell you what entity details, what principal details, so directors, officers, signatories, that kind of thing, and what dates to add to the system. Crucial piece in the workflow. It is going to make a massive impact. With our testing, we have verified that it takes on average about 45 minutes to form an entity, as an example. And this is you taking a document, reading it, putting the information in the system. This is if it's all smooth and easy to follow and you had everything at hand. It would take about 45 minutes. With Athennian Initialize, we are able to get that down to almost under 10 minutes. So that's taking the document, verifying it, making sure you put information in. And that's for a very large entity or amount of data. So it could be even shorter if the information you uploaded was not as massive in terms of size and change. So it detects those changes, it creates them, and it adds those basic key entity details. It also builds out the minute book in addition to detecting those changes. So Similar to Centralize, it files that kind of finalizing document into the minute book, which is incredibly handy and again crucial to the transaction as that's the final stage. And then it also files the documents into the corresponding folders. So again, trending on Centralize and kind of building on that existing base. We know that if that folder doesn't exist, you would create it in the system. It would also file it in the corresponding folders. Now, why? Why did we make this? And again, same kind of trend in terms of the problems we're trying to solve. We don't just want to give you a chat GPT based AI model where you ask a question and it answers it, because it still doesn't solve that problem. That is this information accurate? Can I trust this information? Is this the most up-to-date version of this data, or am I missing something? And that's what we're trying to solve here. So we're removing that manual data review and entry by users by taking the core source, which is that document that kind of references the transaction at hand, and we are creating new entities and people records in the system because of that. Now, this is the first phase. So again, as we have been doing with AI, we've been kind of building this product with clients, which has been phenomenal because we've been able to get real hand feedback, first iteration feedback, which has been wonderful, and we'll continue that process as well. So this is the first version. It doesn't touch on securities or anything like that. It builds the entity details as well as the principals, directors, officers, that kind of thing, ultimate beneficial owners, and then it stores those documents into the minute book. So solving one of those, the most costly problem in entity management today, which is just automating that manual process of getting data into the system. Again, available for Essentials, Professional, and Enterprise packages as an add-on and part of 2024 packaging. Right, let's jump into a demo. I will share a different screen and we will jump into exactly what Initialize looks like. All right, to Initialize, let's take a look at the value that this feature is going to bring. So we are going to head into our AI area in Athennian. You will have this available to you if you have purchased Athennian AI credits. So keep in mind, you won't see this if you don't have Athennian AI credits, and that's totally fine. It is intentional. So always reach out to your CSM if you are wondering about a feature or something that might not be available to you today that you do want to look into. We have touched on Centralize. We will leave that for today. We are going to be jumping into Initialize, which is that next phase. So opening up the Initialize feature, you'll notice that we are brought straight into the dashboard. It automatically gives you an overview of the hours saved across your team, as well as the entities created. So very valuable insights for your team if you're busy working on expansion or strategy, or maybe you're looking at how much work you're actually putting in your day-to-day, and you want to voice that as a team. You can track all of this from an executive level. You also have an understanding of exactly how much is being done in terms of entity management and how much return on investment you're getting by the hours saved as well. So very helpful to see this as you come in. Now, all entities that you create will add into this list. You'll notice I have a couple in here that I've been creating myself. But the first thing we'll do is we're going to go ahead and click on Create with AI. Now, as you do this, you'll notice that there are a couple of steps in Initialize. You have Upload, which is where it drags and drops files from your browser. It supports PDF, PNG, and JPEG, so keep in mind things like licenses. Maybe you have a picture of a certificate from who knows when that you need to upload and add into the entity or into the entity management system. You can do that. The next step would be to verify the information. So as you upload it, AI will start processing it. Let's do that right now, and then I'll walk you through what it looks like when you start verifying. So we're going to click on this very quickly, and I'm just going to pull up some incorporation documents from my desktop. Now, I have some articles of incorporation. I also have some amended bylaws, and I have an incorporation package. So I'm going to open the incorporation package, which is just a collection of a bunch of documents in PDF format. And you'll notice here it has uploaded that file for me. I can remove it if I need to. And I'm going to go ahead and hit Initialize, which is telling the system, start processing this, read through these documents, start scanning the information. I need to create this data. So Athennian will start processing that in the background. You can go ahead and continue your work, and it will do all that back-end work as you are waiting for it. So we'll give it a couple of seconds, and you'll notice that it updates pretty much instantly. It just takes some time if the documents are lengthy. If they are shorter, It takes pretty much a second or two. Perfect. So there you go. It has created that entity, and you will notice it automatically pulled the entity name for me. So let's go ahead and look at this. This isn't final, it's pending. So we haven't actually created the entity in the application. We have simply just received the processed information from AI that is now ready to verify. So you'll notice it has jumped straight to the verification step. We have the same functionality in here where you can add pages, view double pages, and all of that. You can also search things within this view. But you'll notice I now have a BC registry services document that was in that incorporation package. It's a numbered company. In addition to that, I've got the incorporation application, I've got the notice of articles, and I've got the certificate. So I've got all of that listed below here. I'm going to continue kind of scanning through it, making sure everything is good. You'll notice that the completing party's name is in here, Karl Marx, the address. I've got the delivery addresses. I've got a whole bunch of information. Let's take a look at what AI has actually referenced and surfaced for me, and then I'll move forward. So we've got the entity name, which looks to be accurate in here, name of company. We've also got the entity registration number, which is a number that can be found in this document, different from the entity name. AI has been smart enough to pick that up for me. The active status of this entity can be changed. If it is no longer active, I can change it from within here, but suggestion is that it's active based on the information given. The type is corporation. It's based in Canada, BC. And then I've got this formation date on here, which is actually accurate. If I zoom in here, I will notice that February 2nd, 2020, at 1:52 Pacific Standard Time is when the date and time of the filing occurred. And so that date is reflected accurately. Now, let's take a look at the principal records. It has surfaced. You'll notice in here, I have the incorporator, which again, I saw that name further down. It is the person who filed this company, Karl Marx. The role has been preset to incorporator. He's also a director on this company, which comes up further down in the document. And now I've got the start date. So there is no end date. He still acts in this role in the entity, which is great. I can verify this when I'm ready to go, and then move on to the next one. So you'll notice here, Adrian Camara is the next individual, acts as director, and has the same start date. When I'm happy with that, I can verify it. I can hit next. I can also verify all if I have a bunch, so to save me time. And then I can also add roles or principals if need be. So if I do have an additional director on here that may not be noticed, and I want to kind of fill that in as I go, I'm going to add that in right off the bat. So I might have information outside of the documents that I've uploaded that is privy to me that I need to add in this process. So let's go ahead and add that in. I'll say June 12th is when Charlotte West was appointed as manager. And then when I'm ready to move through with that, I will hit next. Now, incorporation package, when you upload these documents, it kind of pulls everything together into one file, and then it puts that in the minute book. So we're going to hit next. We will be able to review all of this information in here. And when we're ready to create, we're going to hit the create button. Now, very important. This all gets done in the background. Let's take a look at what that new entity is. So again, pending. It's processing, it's kind of thinking for me. And when it's created, the status will change and it will give me the ability to go straight into that entity. So you'll notice here, it is not highlighted. So I can't actually open Topco, and that's because it has not been created yet. But once created, I can open that entity. So let's go ahead and open the numbered company. You'll see in here, I've got all of the entity details added. I've got the different directors in here as well. So if I open principals, you'll notice that I've got Karl Marx. He's been added as incorporator, as director. I was added separately as manager, and then Adrian was added as director. And that all came through from that document. Now, in addition to that, let's take a look at the minute book. You have that incorporated package, which has been saved in that minute book. It's got the AI import notes in here. So it's telling me it's come from AI Initialize. And I can go through this document and make sure all is good. A reminder that we do have edit capabilities within the minute book. So if you ever wanted to tweak things that have been uploaded, you do have the ability to pull documents, add in new pages, that kind of thing as well. Here's that certificate. So if you wanted to file something a bit separately, you could move the document as well from this one package. And that's it. That's Athennian AI Initialize. We're going to go back in here and just show you one more time. This is where it kind of lives. This is the hub. And again, that number has gone up to 258. So I've just created an additional entity, which is wonderful. And then again, if I just wanted to use centralize, that's already up and running in here and good to go. And it's been working really well with all the feedback that's come through. So we're very, very excited about this feature. It is a phenomenal step in the right direction with solving a critical problem in entity management today. If you are interested in any of these, let us know. If you want to see a demo, if you have questions for your CSM, if you want to get in touch with our product team, please reach out to us because we are more than happy to jump on a call and walk you through the value that this can bring to you and your team. Right, jumping in back to the slides for the webinar. That was a great demo. And again, if anyone has questions, let us know. But moving on, we want to kind of walk you through some workflow tips and tricks that you can think of when it comes to using Athennian AI. So we know that this is common in the industry. Sometimes features are launched in entity management, and it's great and it's valuable for something like forming an entity, but how else can it help my team? Why would this be valuable for me? Why should I even think about investing in this as a potential? Tell me more. So we kind of wanted to run you through that, give you a couple of tips and tricks in terms of how you can think about this. And hopefully that will spark some excitement in additional workflows that you can incorporate AI in. So the first thing, we've already talked about this, but centralizing incoming documents and entity changes. It is coming at you all the time. Nothing is constant. We know that there are so many changes happening. It usually comes in via email. Sometimes it comes in through Messenger, maybe through Slack if your team uses that, maybe through a phone call and then someone sends an email. But centralizing all of that information becomes difficult if you do not have a way to do it quickly. And so Athennian AI Centralized specifically can help with that if that's one of the key points you kind of want to touch on. Now, looking at filing annual documents in minute book folders, think about that. We know clients have a lot of to-dos when it comes to annual processes. Some of them send out annual letters to clients saying, hey, are you okay with us doing your annual compliance? And before they can move forward with compliance, they actually need that signed letter. Thinking about that entire process, if you can streamline that and just connect the email, add in the document, get that done and filed, say, yep, approved, it's good to go. You can take a process that could take you, let's say, a month and streamline that down to a few days. And you don't have to worry about it because it's all tracked and tagged and data is put in the right entity at the right time. Now, incorporating and forming entities, we kind of ran through this a little bit. But when you are creating new entities or when you're adding historical information into new entities, you have the ability to do this now with Initialize. So taking that step further from Centralize, where you're just kind of adding in that final document in the minute book, if you actually wanted to make very physical data changes to these entities or create new data in the system, you can do that within a couple of minutes. Again, leading on some of those metrics, we're taking a 45-minute on average per entity workflow, and we're giving you the ability to, at its highest complexity, take that down to almost under 10 minutes. That's a big time saver. So thinking about that, and then verifying and processing lengthy handwritten documents. We know that there are a lot of global teams that use Athennian. Maybe there are documents in other languages. Maybe you have scanned or wet signature documents that you need to kind of take a look at and get into the system. We can verify that for you. You can take a picture, you can scan it, you can upload it into Athennian AI using email. You can upload it into Initialize. It will do a little bit of a comb through, surface those important details, and save it in the right folder while also making an impact and starting those data changes for you, saving you tons of time. So there is that piece. And then the final thing that product is very, very set on is that consistency piece. We know that you are working with multiple users, multiple role types, multiple data types, and it's very, very difficult to get a consistent process in place when it comes to centralizing information. But it's so crucial and it's so important. Without it, you can't operate efficiently. You can't trust the information that you are looking at. You can't make accurate decisions as stakeholders. So creating that consistency and just getting the data into a system is key, because it really does build that trust, and it really builds and establishes that feeling of, when I look at this information, I know it's accurate. And that is what we want to drive with this new AI feature. So you will be receiving a booklet. I've added in this little screenshot here. It's the cover. It's going to give you all of the different insights the different value points and metrics and details that you can share with your team as well. If you are struggling to find a reason for the value that this can bring, but you see the value, don't worry, we've got all of that provided for you. And then we will be following up closer to time when that launch date comes, which is October 1st, with feature overviews, with tours, with pricing information and all of that. If you are interested in signing up for maybe a video or a walkthrough before that, we are more than happy to jump on a call with you and meet your team and walk you through that as well. We'll reach out to everyone who has kind of raised their hands in the Q&A, and we'll make sure that we get in touch with you. Upcoming updates: this Thursday, the 12th of September at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, we will be doing our regular bi-weekly updates. So bug fixes, improvements to the application, enhancements, that kind of thing. So keep an eye out for it. We will do our regular announcements in app as well as in the Help Center. We will be hosting a future webinar. The next one's date is set for the 8th of October. We have a feature launch planned for mid-October. So some value is coming in there as well right after AI. Keep your eyes peeled for what is coming. I know we had already spoken about the roadmap and what we were focused on this quarter. So some of those things that we had mentioned early on, you will be seeing already in the system. Again, more information will come closer to time. We'll make sure you have ample headway time in terms of knowing what is coming and what changes will be placed in the system, but look out for those. All right, and now we'll jump to the Q&A. I know we have a couple of questions kind of put in here, so we'll run through that and we'll make sure to answer any questions that we don't get to via email as well, just letting your team know that everything that you have asked and kind of pointed out, we do notice, and we want to make sure that you have everything you need. Perfect. Thank you for all those questions. That was wonderful. You will receive an email again with a link to download the full deck. We'll send out the booklet and the product tour, so keep your eye out for that. It's on the last page. You can kind of walk through the product tour. The recording will be available as we always provide, and then send out your feedback, please. It helps us make these webinars better. We really value it, and we appreciate your support throughout all of this. Follow us on LinkedIn, and we will see you again on October 8th.